Hello, everyone. My name is Elvira Rakova, and I welcome you to our energy movement interviews with experts in compressed air and pneumatics. Today, I'm very happy to have with me Mathew Mwenga from Kenya, and he is a founder of REN Engineering Solutions. So, Mathew, hi. I met you, I think we met like 3 years ago, and we started to talk about it. And I really saw that you are so passionate about the topic. I'm very happy to have it today here.
Yes, thanks for having me, Vera. I think, as I said, I'm excited for what you're trying to do with the energy movement, and I'm really glad to be having a chat with you today about compressed air. And yeah, over to you.
Yeah. So my first question is actually just can you briefly tell us about your journey with REN Engineering Solutions? So what was your background in engineering? So how did you start it and when you started it?
Okay, I started out with a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering, and I was very lucky to join a compressor manufacturer in those formative years. So for the first 6 years of my career, I worked as a service engineer for compressors, and I also did some work with compressor rental. After that, I moved into the upstream oil and gas industry. And I did this via a master's in oil and gas engineering that I did at Robert Gordon University in the UK. And then I also worked in the upstream oil and gas industry for a few years. At the end of that period is when the opportunity came to set up the company. And yeah, so I'll get into that.
Okay, so you come from the background of the chemical engineer. So I guess you saw a lot of application of compressed air while you were working also for the manufacturer. And so what then happened to the founding of your own company? So you said opportunity came. What kind of an opportunity? What it was, inspiration or crisis? So it's usually like two things, it's something bad happened and something really good happened. Tell us.
Well, they say that in every crisis is an opportunity. So for me, one of the things that was really lucky is during my time working for the compressor manufacturer, I was in charge of energy efficiency audits. And so I got to really understand what it takes to collect data and use data to quantify and identify problems in compressed air. Now, the other thing that came about is while I was working in the petroleum industry, the petroleum industry is also very data-driven, very, very data-driven. They are very keen on offsets and looking at past data to predict the future. And they also emphasize a lot on rigor. So when the crisis or opportunity came in 2017, where my work in the oil and gas industry came to an end, I believe I was in the right place at the right time. And we started out mainly offering our services in compressed air system design and installation. But over the next few years, in fact, in the last 7 years, we're now 7 years old, we expanded our services to include things such as energy audits, quality audits, and also providing products that are linked to efficiency, such as flow meters and others.
Okay, that's really great. I'm very curious to understand international markets, and I see that there is like a different also in the mindsets. I mean, even though it is the same, might be same production, might be same engineering background and similar degrees, but I'm originally Russian, so I studied in Russia, and I kind of understand Russian market. However, I've been living in Europe for a few years. Now I'm curious to understand the African market. So because it's a very interesting place, especially when you talk about the energy efficiency, because the prices are different. So in Europe, it's usually driven by the prices. I guess in Africa is similar. In Russia, prices like us lower. But in terms of other companies that provide similar services, what do you think it's very special about the REN engineering and how you like identify yourself in the African market and in general? Curious to understand what's going on there.
Yeah, no, so you touched on a few points. So one thing with the African market is it's very similar to others. It's a mix of multinationals with local branches, the same Diageo, Unilever, they all have local manufacturing and then local manufacturers. So it's always a mix of the two.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that we are very lucky to have in Kenya particularly is that we have legislation that mandates that large energy users should carry out energy audits. And this has been in place since 2012. So in one way, we are not the only country in Africa to have that, but we are a pioneer within East Africa in having legislation in place. And so what that pushed was that manufacturers had to be thinking about doing an energy audit every 3 years. And this has really opened mindsets in a very big way. Now, where we come to how we differentiate ourselves. So one of the key things is most of the auditors locally are general auditors. So they'll focus on the whole factory and looking at all the utilities. But we tend to focus on compressed air. Compressed air is quite, it's a complex system that needs proper understanding. And we believe that one of our core strengths is that we focus on compressed air. Another key thing is we are an end-to-end solutions provider. So we look at compressed air holistically from the supply side, which is the compressors that generate air, to the pipework, to the end use. So we're one of very few companies that do this. In fact, most factories have to go to 2 or 3 different people to look for solutions in each part of their compressed air system. We also have deep experience. And lastly, and I think I mentioned before, this approach of using data as the core of decision making, something that's not so common. I mean, it's slowly being taken up, but it's not so common. A lot of times it's more based on calculations and experience and other things, which can sometimes mislead you.
Okay, that's great. So you are one of those companies that really specifically focus on compressed air. And I think it's a really great point that you also go into the demand side, you look on distribution, and you provide the holistic service to your customers. Because there are also in Europe here, I've seen so many companies that energy auditors, they just go there. They say you need to install the monitoring system, your compressor consumes as much, and that's it. It's data collection is very important, but making a decision based on this data, this is actually the key. And even though it's very obvious, sometimes it's just the companies really don't get to this point because there are not so many specific specialists that can help with everything. The same thing also in compressed air, that there are some specialists that focus only on the leaks, but sometimes when the air is used in such a bad, incorrect way, I'm not talking about the obvious cleaning shoes, for example, but I mean oversized actuators or the blowing applications or cleaning applications, it's doesn't make sense to fix leaks of the application that doesn't make sense to use. So, and this is, I think it's so important that you really go into the holistic approach and that the customer is like then satisfied after this. Talking about the applications and the customers, so what are the significant compressed air utilities or usage that you usually work with, and what types of industry that are your typical clients?
So it varies. In Kenya, particularly, the largest number of manufacturers are in food and beverages, around 30%. So they tend to be the majority. But what is a fact with compressed air is that compressed air is used across the board. It's used across all types of manufacturers, and it's a very key utility. Usually when the compressor is not working, there is no production. So I'd say, looking at our track record, we've worked with manufacturers from all sectors. We also find that manufacturers in very competitive sectors, for example, here the plastic sector is particularly competitive, are more open to things like efficiency as a way to improve their competitive advantage. And, with them, with plastics as an example, they track costs per unit, per item produced. So that kind of focus on efficiency, where they look at each and every single input into what they're manufacturing, eventually leads them to compressed air. And we've had some very good experiences, helping these manufacturers understand their cost per item and how to reduce it further.
That's great. I'm really happy to hear about this advancement on the energy efficiency. Talking about the plastic, for example, manufacturers. So, how your company usually approaches this kind of energy efficiency project? So you said that you help them to understand how much compressed air per unit, right? That would be produced.
Yes.
What is then the next step to help them?
So generally what we'll do is we'll have a baseline. And I think that's always the key thing. You need to either engage experts. So with plastics particularly, we have some experts, and I cannot emphasize this enough. It's very important to work with other people. There are some globally recognized experts like Pete from the US who works in the plastics area. And we're able to work with them to get baselines for different types of equipment. And so based on what the actual consumption is, so we put a flow meter and measure the actual consumption, particularly, for example, of a blow molding machine, and then compare that with what it should actually be consuming. And the difference, is the opportunity for saving. Now, where the losses are, for example, it could be leaks within the equipment, it could be undersized piping. So all that will come from the data collected, and it will be able to identify, okay, so where should the focus be in terms of the next step? Because as you said, data by itself is not enough. It's like carrying out a leak audit without repairing leaks. It's just half of the story. The other half is the actions that you take after you collect the data.
Okay, so basically you also work with other experts in the field. So I think it's really one of the key points. It's very important, and I'm happy to hear about it. So you mentioned that you would know the baseline for those machines, right? And then you can compare it what already there. So what do you think about how usually clients react to this? So can you share with us, I know, one story of your customer? How do you approach them? Is it usually hard for them to start the project, or they're happy to go there? Are they hesitant of the new innovations or installations? So what is usually the reaction of the clients there?
Okay, so it depends. We get two types of people. So we do a lot of awareness through webinars, through emails. So some people will respond to one of the awareness campaigns that we've done. And then based on that, we can have the initial interaction and discuss. Some will react to a specific problem. And usually the people who we've managed to help become more efficient are the people who are in pain. That would be one way to put it. So either, one manufacturer, I think there was a push for them to buy new equipment, and they were not ready to make this investment. So they approached us to look at how can they improve the efficiency. And then based on that initial interaction, we're able to carry out an audit and identify that, in fact, by eliminating leaks and carrying out, installing a master controller for the group of compressors they had, they'd be able to meet the current demand they had with existing equipment and have some leftover capacity for expansion. So, that's one project. The one that I'd like to really point out that was very successful is, power generation company that we worked with in 2018. So again, they had a very inefficient compressed air system. And when we did the initial audit, their specific power or the efficiency was about double of what an efficient compressed air system would look like. So based on those initial findings, we were able to give like 3 phases of efficiency measures. The first of which was to replace the existing compressor with a more efficient one. And so as we implemented the 3 phases of the project, we cut their compressed air energy consumption by 60%. In fact, to the point where their older equipment was now oversized. And it was a great example of how you can use data to carry out efficiency measures, and then use monitoring to verify those savings.
That's great. So I really like the end-to-end approach that you don't only just tell people here you can do better, but you actually provide them already the solution. So you also work with the manufacturer of efficient solutions, right? The suppliers of the flow meter, suppliers of the monitoring system. Without making any advertisement for other companies today, what do you think is the latest technologies in compressed air and pneumatics that were really good, that you really like to use, what are the trends now, in your opinion, that also your clients, after installing those equipment, they're very happy about?
Yeah, so there are many opportunities for saving. I think the truth is we've hardly scratched the surface in this market, because almost always the overriding factor in decision making is cost. A lot of times people are still choosing equipment based on the initial cost rather than the total cost of ownership. And so even the basic efficiency equipment is still a big opportunity that I see here. Some of the exciting things that I've seen is, one of the compressor manufacturers now has a hybrid machine that basically incorporates a fixed speed and a variable speed compressor in one canopy, with the idea of improving, partial load efficiency, which is always a big headache with compressors. What happens when demand on the weekend is half of what it is during a weekday? How do you meet that demand without buying another compressor? And so that's, for me, really exciting. There's also a lot of exciting, technologies coming around, remote monitoring for efficiency, where, people have, the data systems and data loggers that allow you to monitor compressed air systems remotely.
Yeah.
And of course, the work that you're doing at Directing with this, software that allows you to calculate pressure drop and, look at different options for air guns and other equipment that is on the demand side, which, as I said, is the most critical.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's great. It's sometimes, I feel like sad that compressed air is considered kind of like an old-fashioned technology, and the people think just that, because the problem is that it works for years and it doesn't need any innovation because it is functional, right? It's never been designed to be efficient. And now when we approach this problem that it consumes a lot, but it actually can be designed in the correct way. And as you said, you have so many projects where components just oversized, compressor is oversized, other components that oversized, simply even without any additional huge investment, the companies can save a lot. So, and this is I really like about your approach, that you create the holistic roadmap for customers step by step, from fixing leaks until to the full integration of new solutions that exist on the market. And I would look on this compressor, it's very interesting for me. So I think I can use it in some of my projects too. What is your next steps for your company, your global vision? Because I really understand you as an entrepreneur. So my company is younger than yours, but you always go through this existential crisis, 5 stages of, um, doubts and things and looking for customers, then you get at this point that you already recognized in your field. So what is your next vision, next steps in the for your company, for REN Engineering Solutions, in the next years?
Well, we are very, very excited. And, one of the key things that you're looking at is how do we unlock energy efficiency for small and medium manufacturers? My experience has been a lot of efficiency solutions, and even, the monitoring equipment and, the things that enable efficiency are priced in a way that they only favor the larger manufacturers because of the initial cost. And one of the things that we're really, really investigating is how to, remove some of these barriers around data collection so that it's more democratized to small and medium manufacturers who, as we say, are the people who will be the next large manufacturers if they do get past that stage. The other thing that we're looking at is expanding more and more into our shared energy savings business model. And with this business model, we're mainly trying to address the key barriers to the adoption of energy efficiency, right? And one of them, of course, is always the upfront cost. A lot of times efficient equipment will cost more. And so that's always a barrier. There's also the technical risk. People don't trust that it's as efficient as you say. They think you're just trying to sell them something. And so shared energy savings, brings this opportunity where, we can take the risk and assure the savings during the payback period. And we believe this is another very strong way that will unlock energy efficiency for more and more people, so that it's not something that is seen just for the people who have the capital to implement and can afford efficient solutions.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I really like this idea of helping small and medium companies. I think they're really in need. So when larger companies that are driven more by the sustainability goals, or for people that like just their bosses of the bosses told them that they have to look at this, I think small and medium companies, they're really driven by that and they are implementing it faster. So because they need it, they need to save energy, they need to save money also, they need to have expansion. And the operators, in my personal experience, operators are usually also react like in a more friendly way with you, because they really want to optimize their processes for themselves. So I think it's kind of quick win, but it's important for them to find this capex to invest at the beginning for the project. I think you're on a very good track. And what about your geographical expansion? So we can direct our viewers and listeners that are in Africa, but Africa is so big. So can you tell us how they can approach you, from which countries you work with, and so they can also optimize their
Yes,
factories?
so we are currently based in Nairobi, Kenya. We have worked in the Eastern Africa region, the countries around us. And, in the coming year, we look to have more of a physical presence within East Africa, in Uganda, Tanzania, and as the opportunity arises within the other countries. And so our focus right now, if you have any energy efficiency needs within the Eastern Africa region, we are definitely the partner for you. And in the medium term, we'll be looking at providing our service, across the continent. The thing with energy, with compressed air and energy efficiency is that, being a specialized service, it's something we believe we can offer, wherever there's a customer in need. So yeah, feel free to let us know what your requirements are, and we'll be happy to work with you.
Well, Matthew, I really wish you a lot of success. And I think with your approach, you will achieve a lot of success also with your company. So your customers are happy people if they when they approach you. Thank you so much for this interview. I just want to tell to everyone that you're welcome to our energy movement. You can find the profile in the experts profile of Mathew there. So with some descriptions, the projects, and if you're in the region in the East Africa, for now, just reach to him, and I'm sure that Mathew will be available asset for your company in the sense of the project on the not only efficiency of compressed air, but in general, right? Because you also provide various services, services on this. Mathew, thank you so much for the interview today, and I'm looking forward to the next exchange on the new technologies that you're implemented or projects in the compressed air world. Thank you so much for your work.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. And, as you say at REN Engineering, save air, save money.
Yeah,
Thanks.
perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Have a nice day.